Today we're going to be talking about 3 routes that all wide receivers need to learn that DBs can't guard if executed correctly. So this first one is going to be something called the diamond release slant. Now, I know some of you have probably heard of this diamond release, but there's a little bit something extra that A.J. Brown adds to this diamond release to get him a little bit more separation and to get more of a reaction out of a DB. So a diamond release is used when you have a DB who's lined up inside shade press and you have to run a 3-step slant. So generally just a regular diamond release is where you're going to be taking 3 hard steps. You're running right at his outside shoulder, right at his outside hip, and the goal is to get this DB to open up his hips and think that we are running a 9, aka a fade. They call it a 9 because a 9 on the route tree, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, a 9 is a fade route. So what A.J. Brown does, though, is he sets up this diamond release by giving some type of inside, like kind of hesitation jab or like hesitation skip move to make it look more like a fade. And the reason why he does that is because this DB is a disciplined DB. If you any DB, guys, at the NFL level is going to be a disciplined DB. He's going to have skills. He's going to have great eye discipline, which means that he watches a wide receiver's hips, and he's going to study a lot of film and pay attention to what wide receivers do. So anytime you're going up against a talented level DB, you have to understand that it takes more than just like the basics. The basics can get a guy who's maybe not as experienced, but I feel like you could always add on to that. So what he does first is you see how he gives this little move inside, this little jab. That is exactly how A.J. Brown would run his fade. We want to make our slant look exactly like how I'd run our fade. It's very rare for wide receivers because like that diamond release is where we just take 3 steps, right? But that's how you would run a slant versus inside shade press because we have to get him to open up his hips. I can't just give him a quick jab and then try to cross his face. That's not going to work. I can't just take off and try to run. That's not going to work. This DB's job being inside leverage is to not let us run to the inside. So he'll keep that leverage, move to the inside, and my slant route will almost look like a drag route running into linebackers and other receivers that are over the middle. So again, guys, we have to make it look similar. So how would A.J. Brown run that fade? He'd give a move inside, and then he would take off. So that's the first step of the diamond release. Second, third, he puts the brakes on, swats this DB on his shoulder. You could also swat on this DB's hip if you'd like, back of his arm. Those are kind of our 3 points of control that we ultimately want to aim for. But remember, we're making it look like a fade first. Let's set him up fade. 1, 2, 3. Get him to flip, and then now we got separation on that slant. Great job by A.J. Brown making his routes look together. We call that pairing our releases, you guys. Our fade release, that hezzy jab inside, go take off and run vertical. Our slant release, hezzy jab inside, take those 3 steps, make it look like the exact same vertical route to get separation back underneath. So let's play this again full speed right now. Great job by Brown setting up inside, slipping under him, and then winning on that slant ball. Now, this next route we're going to be taking a look at here, fellas, is going to be from Tyreek Hill. And this is how you guys would run like a dig route versus a DB who's either playing head-up coverage or inside shade press. Now, before we go over this route, you guys, if you are a wide receiver or even a quarterback watching this and you guys would like to train with us this offseason, me, myself, and our staff of coaches will be traveling out to 15 different locations this offseason for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, guys, we'll be coming out to Orlando, Florida. We already did our camp in San Francisco. That was a great turnout. If you were there, we really appreciate it. We enjoyed working with you. That camp was completely sold out. Our Orlando camp is next. That is sold out. Then we'll be out to Phoenix, Charlotte, Austin, Texas. This camp is actually sold out as well. And the rest of these camps, guys, will sell out within the next 2 months. We limit spots so each athlete can get individual coaching. It's not a million people out there, you guys, so that's why we do that. But all of these camps will fill up. So make sure you take advantage of the spots being available. Then we'll be coming out, guys, to Las Vegas, Seattle, Chicago, Newark, Birmingham, Houston, Boston, Columbus, Boise, and Los Angeles. So, guys, if you want some more information, you want to sign up, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you there. Again, very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you be a part of one of our 2-day camps with myself and my staff of coaches. Let's get back to this video. So now, let's talk about this next rider from Tyreek Hill. So this is kind of an interesting situation, right? Like, this may be like a designed mandatory outside release just because I feel like Tyreek Hill probably could have gotten the inside release on this, but it's totally fine. He's going to be running this like 10 to 12 yard dig. For those of you that don't know, that's like an in route if you're not familiar with like dig terminology. There's a couple ways you could run a dig. You could speed cut it. You could break to the post and then flatten it off. They call that a post dig. You could run something called a basic where you run up, break down, and get straight across. So like there are a few different other things, right? So there are a few different breaks that you could do. So let's talk about how he runs this route. I feel like Stingley right here is in like head up press, right? So this DB is right in front of him. He's about, I would say, like 2 yards away. He's not necessarily showing a shade to the inside or showing a shade to the outside. Now, what Hill does is he closes the space, gives a move inside, takes this outside release. He's able to stack over him and win on this dig route. So the great part about this, fellas, is I think that whenever you have a DB who's lined up like 2 yards away, what a talented receiver is going to do is he is going to close the space with the DB. And again, this is why I said in the beginning of the video, these routes are simple routes. We're talking about slants. We're talking about digs. The next route we're going to talk about is a little bit more advanced than these two, but like these are simple routes. But if executed correctly, they're damn near unguardable, you guys, because DB really has nothing to do. So anytime that we have a DB who's lined up at like 2 yards away, we call this catch technique. He's essentially trying to catch the receiver. It's smart to play on a guy like Tyreek Hill because he has speed. Like essentially what he's hoping that Tyreek Hill does is just tries to beat him with speed to the outside so he could get hands on him and kind of like cut off the angle and use the space to his advantage. Now as a receiver, if we close that space to him, now it's like press man-to-man foot race type situation, and Tyreek Hill's going to win that 10 times out of 10. I feel every receiver should win it 10 times out of 10 if you know what to do. Now, when he closes space with them, though, what a great receiver can do at this point when they close the space is be able to react off of this DB. So you see how Stingley, when you close the space with him, pay attention to his right foot. You see how his right foot kind of takes that leverage step to the inside, like he's trying to take away the inside release, if you will. Great. As a wide receiver, if I feel that that DB starts to do that, I could easily react, put the brakes on, and take what he gives me to the outside release. Would I love an inside release on an inside breaking route like a dig or a post? Absolutely, I would love that release. But if I close the space, give him a move inside, and he's trying to take away the inside, okay, fine. I'm going to take this outside release. I'm still going to work my route. We can't just be married to that inside release just because it's an inside breaking route, guys. Remember, we have to execute this correctly. So when we close the space, if my mindset was, okay, I'm going to take this inside release, but Stingley takes that leverage step, you run, he gets hands, our dig route ends up all the way on the opposite side of the field. That's not good. That's not good spacing, you guys. If we have other receivers on the play working other routes, sitting in other parts of the field, and we're right on top of them, like that's obviously not where we want to be. The quarterback can't get a read because our routes are stacked on top of each other. So take what the DB gives us. He takes this outside release. Let's work the stack. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, I'm not as fast as Tyreek Hill. I can't just get around a DB like this. Totally fine, you guys. If this DB's running hip to hip with us, you know what I could do at the break point? I could drop my hips. I could take my inside hand, just like we saw with A.J. Brown, put it on the back of the hip or back of the shoulder of the DB, swat him by, and cut under. That break being a fraction of a second slower, but us having spacing on the play is what the quarterback cares most about. Let me play this again full speed one more time. Great job by Tyreek Hill giving a move inside, taking that outside release. So I hope you guys understand that whenever we close space with the DB, if he's head up, he could shade inside, he could shade outside, he could stay where he is. We just have to be able to react, and we got to have a plan of action off the ball. Now, let's talk about this next route here from Jordan Addison. So he's going to be running something called a post out route. Now, there are a few things I feel like he could do a little bit better on this route. We'll talk about it. Some things that maybe you could add to your game, some things that he does very, very well. Jordan Addison's a great route runner. Obviously, he's a great complement to Justin Jefferson, but this post out could also be referred to as a blaze out, and then some people refer to it as a martini route because it kind of looks like a martini glass. So it's one of those things. So he comes off the ball, he breaks to the post here, 3 steps to the post, be able to put the brakes on and come back to this ball. So it's very similar to like a post corner, but I think the main key whenever you are running a double move to make sure that we get separation, especially when it's in front of a DB's face. So I'm talking like a slant and go. I'm talking a post corner. I'm maybe talking a corner post. You could be doing that over the top of, like, let's say this was a safety, like you're running a corner post out of the slot and we have 2 high safeties. Whenever you break to the post, major key is that you don't change speed. So he breaks to the post. You see how there's really not a change in speed. Like right when he comes off the cut, same speed to the post, and then he starts to put the brakes on. So if we maintain that speed, that makes it more believable. Second thing I would say is long stride. So when he cuts to the post, like I want you to pay attention, he's gaining ground. Like he's starting at he's like kind of towards the bottom of the numbers, and he almost ends up like towards like, I guess you could say like middle of the numbers, so he's kind of gaining ground. He took it on a skinny angle, but if you have good speed, long strides, and going into that post, you see how his hips and his shoulders are both committed to the post. That is what get that DB to bite. So if you're selling a double move, speed, stride, body language, much like anything else when you're selling routes as a receiver. One thing could he have done better? Peek those eyes to the inside, because that might be more likely to get this DB to crash, especially if you sell a double move with your eyes. So that kind of ties into that body language talk we had. So a post out route is a great route you guys can learn, guys. I really just wanted to talk about this because I want to talk about selling the double move. Not a lot of offenses have the post out. Some do. If you have it, great. If you only have like a post corner or slant and go, the same principles apply. That is why I wanted to discuss this.